All right, today we are going to crack the code on strategic negotiation. And let's get one thing straight. The idea that winning means being the most aggressive person in the room, forget it. Real power in a negotiation, it comes from having a clear, practical framework, one that lets you walk into any discussion and feel confident. So let's build that framework together, step by step.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to lay out the basic framework and talk about the golden rules that really every single successful negotiation is built on. Then, we'll dive into your negotiation toolkit, basically 5 powerful styles you can use. After that, and this is the fun part, we'll get into how to pick the right style for any situation. And finally, we'll talk about how to take all this from just theory to actual practice.
So before we get into all the different styles and clever tactics, we've got to build a solid foundation. You know, every negotiation, doesn't matter if you're buying a car or closing a business deal, rests on just a few core principles. These are the non-negotiables. These are the golden rules.
And here they are, the big 3. Number 1, avoid giving things away too early. Seriously, if you make a concession right at the start, it just signals that you don't really value your own position. It weakens you before you've even started. Number 2, listen. I mean, really listen. So often the other side will literally tell you everything you need to know to find a solution, but only if you're paying attention. And third, manage your offers strategically. It's not just about what you offer, it's about how and when you do it. That timing can completely change the game. Get these 3 things down and you're already in the driver's seat.
Okay, so with those golden rules as our foundation, now we can start filling up our toolkit. We're going to look at 5 distinct negotiation styles. I want you to think of these less as rigid rules and more like different tools you can pull out for different jobs.
And this really shows you the whole toolkit in one glance. Now, what's so important to get here is that none of these styles is automatically the best one. They're all just options. A great negotiator doesn't just have a favorite hammer they use for everything, right? No, they know exactly when to pull out the wrench or the screwdriver. In fact, in a really complex negotiation, you might find yourself switching between 2 or even 3 of these styles to get the job done.
First up, we've got the competing style. This is your assertive, kinda I win, you lose approach. The focus here is all about getting what you want, even if it comes at the expense of the other side. Now, it's a really powerful tool for sure, but you have to use it carefully, especially when the outcome is way more important than the long-term relationship. Next, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have collaborating. So instead of fighting over who gets the biggest piece of the pie, you're working together to figure out how to make the whole pie bigger for everyone. It's a creative, problem-solving style that's all about finding that true win-win where everybody walks away happy.
Then, right in the middle, you've got compromising. This is the practical approach. Both sides give a little to get a little. It's not quite the grand win-win of collaborating, but hey, it's a super efficient way to find a solution you can both live with and just move on. It's the classic, let's just meet in the middle.
Now, the avoiding style. This one can be surprisingly smart. This is not about being scared of conflict. It's about making a deliberate, strategic choice to not engage. You know, maybe the timing's all wrong, or the stakes are just too low to even bother. Or maybe you just need to go back and get more information before you can really negotiate effectively.
And last but not least, accommodating. This is where you intentionally decide to yield to the other side. Now, on the surface, that might look like losing, right? But it's actually a strategic move when you know that preserving that long-term relationship is way more valuable than winning this one little point. Think of it as an investment in future goodwill.
So we've got our golden rules locked in. We've got our 5 tools in the toolkit. Now for the most important part, actually using them. I mean, knowing what the styles are is great, but knowing which one to use in the right situation, well, that's the skill that separates the amateurs from the pros.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've got this awesome, versatile toolkit. But how do you know when to be competitive versus when you should be collaborative? How do you choose the right tool for the job? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. It's all about the context. And this table just lays it out perfectly. You compete when a quick, decisive action is what you need. You collaborate when you're working with a long-term partner and finding a solution that benefits everybody is the goal. You compromise when the goal is important, but it's not worth blowing up a relationship over. You avoid a silly, trivial argument that just isn't worth your time. And you accommodate when you know that keeping that relationship strong is the most valuable thing on the table.
All right, so that brings us to the finish line. We've gone through the whole framework, from the basic principles to the specific tools and exactly when to use them. But remember, just knowing this stuff is only the beginning.
And this is the part I really want you to take away. You can't become a master negotiator just by watching a video. It just doesn't work that way. Like any other skill, playing an instrument, playing a sport, it takes real, deliberate practice. Start in low-stakes situations. Try role-playing with a friend. Learn to adapt on the fly. That's how you go from just knowing the theory to truly having the instinct.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Take a second and think about it. Which one of these 5 styles is your natural go-to, your default setting? Because we all have one. The real secret to getting better is, first, identifying your own habit, and then learning to consciously choose a different, more effective style when the situation calls for it.